Hey, everybody. My name is Tim Gillette, and we're here with another episode of The Tim Gillette Show. Today, I'm excited. I actually get to bring on a guest of someone who, we've known each other most of 2020, but this is finally the time that we get to talk on camera because we really have only talked in chat rooms. Like we've been in the comment section of events. We've never had a conversation. So this is our first. You're going to see it for the first time live. And I love it because that's what I love to do with this podcast, The Tim Gillette Show, is get to know people, all right, and then share them with you. And I love it. It is one of my favorite shows to do of all of my two podcasts because I get to interview people and literally I get to find out their story, what makes them happy, what makes them sad. All right. I even teased her and told her I might ask her about her teddy bear. We'll see if she brings her teddy bear up. Anyway, I don't even know if she has a teddy bear, but we'll talk. Jeni, I knew Jeni, I was going to mess it up. So, and I said it. Jeni Stottrup is someone that I've known and met through Joe Pardo, all right, and the Independent Podcasters Group, and have wanted to have her on the show for some time. She's been through a lot this year, like we all have, all right. But she finally said, you know what, we're going to make this happen. And she reached out last week and said, let's do it this week. And we're going to do it. So I'm going to get to know her just like you. She's in the podcasting industry, just like us. We're here on a podcast. So chances are we're going to get to know some things about what she does in podcasting. Who knows? Maybe she can help you with your podcast. Just saying. Let's find out. Hi, Jeni.
Hi. Hey, Tim. Yeah, it's great to be here. Hello.
Finally. All right. Well, I think we started chatting in what? June?
April? I think it's June. I guess. Yeah. It was June. I think I did the first thing with Joe back in April. Like I met him finally in person in March. And Joe had been someone who, like, same as you, I'd known online for ages, but we'd actually like hung out and became buds at PodCon this year. So it was like, okay, let's do this and have it move forward. And I had a series in the spring and he was on it. And then he has been doing all these, workshops and little conferences throughout the year. And I was on a lot of them. So that was really fun. And we were on a couple of them. So like you said, it was in the chat rooms. And, I'd be like, yeah, that thing that Tim said, or like, but it was always in the chat. And be like, hey, what's going on? But yeah, we've never had a hey, what's up conversation
before. It's
before.
the first time for us to be on camera together. It's so cool.
I know. It is very cool. Yeah, it's nice to see you.
So and I have been following a lot of like your Instagram and Facebook stories. All right. So I kind of watch and I hear some of your story. I kind of know some of the stuff you're going through, but I've never got to ask you about it. So
oh my God.
I know you're younger. All right. I'm guessing you're my daughter's age. All right. I have kids younger than you, or maybe older than you for all I know, but
guess my age. Have fun with this one.
Mom said it's not wise to guess a person's age, but I'm guessing you're under 30. So
no. You're
not under 30?
No, I'm not. This is one of my fun secrets. I'm 37.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's a thing. You're not alone in this. It's pretty awesome. I just literally have good genes. Okay. And it's great. I love it. I don't do more than just put on an SPF 15 Neutrogena face wash. Today I've just been breaking out stress, so I have makeup on and it helps with the cameras, but yeah, you're not crazy. It is kind of funny though, being in an industry where age actually helps you in many ways, because they're just like, oh, you just don't know. And I'm like, dude, I've lived 4 lifetimes. I've got so many stories, but I don't mind it. I actually just am like, lucky me, yeah. I can't complain.
Yeah, I mean, so but you've done several different industries, huh?
I have done several different industries. Yeah. But I'm still under 40. I'm still young. I'm just not 25. Yeah.
I know. I actually made a comment because I like asking those interesting questions on social media that gets people to tell me things about themselves, like what was the first thing you bought when you got your first paycheck or things like that. And I answered to someone who told me again, I'm an 80s kid. So they told me they bought their first Atari game system. And I'm like, man, I never had a game system until I was 39 years old.
I was 37 and my friend bought it for me.
Yeah. Yeah, mine was
It's
an
right there.
Xbox. Yeah, mine was an Xbox, and it was
Thanks, Brett.
now an ex-girlfriend. But my girlfriend at the time bought it for me for my birthday. All right, and she had two kids who were like 16 and 18 who had them. I never thought of going out and buying one. I had the money to buy it over the years, but it wasn't on my mind until we were playing her sons or something at her house, and I'm like, oh, it'd be interesting. I've never had one of these. So she went and got me one for my birthday. Yeah. So
I was dating someone and he like played a lot of Animal Crossing. And so like I got really wanting to play Animal Crossing and it was during like all this crap. So like I had this one on my phone. And one of the things that happened this year is I had surgery. And when I was in the waiting room and I'm sitting there playing this crappy game, my friend Britt, she helps run Podcast Portland with me. And she runs like an awesome podcast. I'm forgetting the name because it just changed names like in the last 6 months. And she was like, just there, I'm like, Britt, what are you doing? She's like, nothing. And she's like, and all of a sudden sent it to me, and I got it like that Wednesday. It was like amazing. So I now have this game system, and like I definitely overused it when I first had it, but like I also had a lot of time where I wasn't doing anything. But yeah, it's been interesting to have it for the first time. I think it's about time for me to download a new game, just because I've never like had one. So I've only played Animal Crossing ever.
I play. Wait a minute. Not, Jenny. I play Sim City on my iPad still.
Oh, so. Same concept. Yeah. Totally. I played. I played like games on those, but like nothing terribly complicated. Like people are always like, "Go ahead." The best is when I'm at friends' houses and they are like, "You're gonna be fine at the racing game." I am like the absolute worst at racing games. Like you're like, get me into the one where it's the people in the exactly, I can't even think of the name, with the cars and there's the crime and stuff and you're driving around. I can make it about 30 seconds without getting shot. It's like a whole thing, and they're just sitting there just cracking up, and I'm like, don't worry. Like I'm not even trying to be mad at it. I'm just really, really terrible at it.
Is that like what is oh man, Grand Theft Auto?
Grand Theft Auto, that's the one. Yeah. Grand Theft Auto.
So when my daughter turned 18 and she moved from Pennsylvania down here to Texas to live with me for a while. And at 18, I had that game. When she was 18, I had the gaming system, and we got Grand Theft Auto, and we were playing it. And we found, I mean, for us, we were just, what can we do with the games to mess with them? All right, where's the corner that we can get away with? How far can we go to get away with something before we get caught?
Yeah.
This is games I played with my daughter when she was 18. And we found that there was this one police station that you can walk through and gather all the weapons, but there was one prize weapon. The second you picked that up, it was war to get out of the police station. And my daughter and I, we had a game. We didn't care about the rules of the game. Our game was once we get that, to see how far we could get outside of the police station before they killed us. That was our game.
Right. Like that was the whole thing. It's like you could get all the stuff, but then you had all the weapons, at least from there, if you picked that one up last. So I guess it could be worse.
So yeah, it was a weird, anyway. So, I mean, gaming. All right. Well, so we can get off on gaming. But like I was looking that you actually did stuff in music. Is this true?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. That's my background.
So, I mean, you said you majored in some other stuff in school, or did you minor and major or anything in music?
No, I have a major in music. There's a story there, actually. So I started performing when I was like 12. I mean, I started performing when I was really little. Like I'm a singer. I have a good voice. I have a great voice. And I also have a really good ear, and this ended up translating to me in the work I do now. And I was a musician, so I was first flute. I was first like I won all these awards in high school. I was like the lead of like all the plays and musicals. Like I did solos. I did state. Like I was always a finalist for like state solos, things like that. All of that stuff. And then I got a really great scholarship to the University of Iowa, but like I had been just working really hard constantly, and I had never drank. I wasn't a partier. I never went anywhere. And I turned 18 and went to a party school, and like no joke, I was just like woohoo, and like moved into these like crappy dorms that were filled with dust, and I developed nodules. So I had to like end ended up having to have surgery on my voice, but it meant that like a lot of my classes, I just really couldn't go deeper level with them, and I couldn't go as deep as I wanted to, even in my like my practicals and everything. So I ended up picking up a political communications degree and an English minor because I thought about going into journalism, but I was like, I'm just, it was the fear really about going into journalism as a career, as a field. So it was one of those things that I picked up these other degrees because I just really wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and I was considering going like into law. And eventually my voice came back. It wasn't the same, but I learned so much going through vocal therapies and going through the surgery and, redevelop my voice. I was like, I want to go. And like, I had my senior recital and I actually did it after I graduated. And then I was like, I want, because I wanted to have recordings, and I moved to Seattle. And when I moved to Seattle, I like started studying with this guy immediately and learned like chordal piano because I could play piano, but I actually didn't really know my chords. Like there was like this whole basis of being classically trained and being a classical vocalist and like musicals that like meant that I did what other people did. So there was like I was a creative person, but had like all these like, this holding back. And so I spent, years kind of breaking that mold of really being able to like be an artist and like to start writing and kind of exploring creativity in a totally different way outside of what I had been trained in for like a decade, pretty much constantly for an entire decade. It was interesting. So that's like how I ended up with like those first two degrees in the minor. Yeah.
Well, I mean, at least you went to college. I never went to college, so you got one up on me there, girl. So
it was kind of a thing. Everybody just, like, I would say it wasn't really a thing to not go to college. To be honest, I don't think I had considered not doing it like ever. So, I mean, like, I don't think there's anything wrong if you don't. I think these days it's even a little bit different. But like, I wouldn't say that like at the time I was 18, I was like, what if I took a year off? I guess it was like people who thought about doing that, but it just, I don't think I even ever thought of like a concept that didn't like exist within that, which is an amazing thing because like there's so many people where that's not even an option.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a blue collar family, and literally, my dad took college courses. My mom took some courses. My brother Kenny he's one brother younger than me. He's the first person I think in our family to get a master's degree, and he went back to got his GED at 40, and then went to college.
My grandpa got his GED at like 75, I think. My dad was the first to get his undergrad and then also the first to get his master's. And then my brother actually didn't go to college right away. So I should like preface it and saying it wasn't like an example. But, not all my aunts and uncles like did end up going to college right away. Or I think most of them now have a college degree. But like, again, they were farm families. My mom's side, I think a lot of them didn't. It was just a different era before too. So...
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a great option out there. All right. Would you say, going to school changed some things on your outlook of life, spending time in schools? Whereas like, look at my outlook on life. I had to, learn by, trial and error, you know what I mean? Where you've got connections and network and maybe connection, people that you met through schools that I wouldn't have met.
Not necessarily.
Would you agree that's a good choice for both?
I would say the thing that I really believe when you go to college is you learn how to finish a project and you learn how to be accountable for it, because it's not easy. And the big thing is that like the only way that you're going to finish the semester is if you show up and you write that 15-page paper and if you do that work. Otherwise you're not going to graduate. You're not going to get it done. And I still was working 15 hours a week on top of it because like you had to, like the only way that you were going to still be able to pay your bills on top of that, like, because for me, while I had scholarships, like I still had to be able to pay to like exist. Right. So it wasn't necessarily easier because like you also still kind of knew that your degree wasn't going to like lead to something like immediately, because undergrad degrees, it was sort of like, well, there's not necessarily applicable jobs necessarily. And it's like, if I'd stayed in the area, there might've been more connections, or if I'd done internships, but I didn't do internships. So I think that depending on like where you're at, and I think this is sort of where like if you think about taking that break to go in, like finding that path is really, really key. And, some of those connections definitely help. I think it helps to see like that you finished those pieces, but like no one ever's like checked some of the deeper level of things. Like that's not the major issue. That's not the big stress, but it's saying like, well, I know that you put in that time and that effort to like finish those degrees. Like you accomplished that. I think that's the number one thing. And one of the things I've sort of hit is you can't really be flaky if like when you've gone. I think that's one of the big things. And if you're flaky, then you don't graduate. But and I think that's the bigger difference is like, yeah, you have to finish these projects or else you're wasting money. You're wasting someone else's money, and you're hurting yourself more than anyone else. Like you're not going into the job market. So what are you going to do about it? Like if you want to up that job market, you got to figure out a solution. Like, so I didn't really think of it as like a way of kind of blowing off. I saw it as a way of like working really, really hard to like finish something, and accomplish that as far as when it comes to a degree, not versus not a degree.
Yeah. So would you agree, Jeni, in your world that, learning that and finishing that, all right, and the fact that you're now in podcast editing, finishing is, oh my gosh. I mean, I know tons of people in our podcasting that can't finish a project. Would you agree it's a big, huge difference in your business?
I would say it's a big, huge difference. And I would say that's sort of, even with my master's, a lot of it came down to learning how to be okay with feedback, learning those project-based podcasts or something I do a lot of, and even more complicated podcasts. I work on things with sound design and with like story. Hi, Anita. And those pieces where you are going ahead and like really crafting something that takes a little bit extra work. And like you need to meet these deadlines. You need to make these certain pieces. And that's something that's really like applicable to the real world. And you can learn that a lot of different ways. I'm not saying that that's the only way, but like at least I know like with my English degree or like when I was heading toward my senior recital, it's like if it's not ready and you're not there, that's just what's going to be the end result. And one of the things in the real world is that, it's not about the grade. You're going to have another project like the next day, or if you don't, you have to hustle for it. You have to find that project, right? And that's sort of the difference. Like you have to sort of get out of this mentality that like where people give it to you, and you have to become the big difference between like when you're in school versus afterward is you really have to find that work. You have to figure out your business sense, and you need to, create projects for yourself if there's lags, because like someone else isn't going to be telling you what to do unless you just go immediately in the business world and like work in a project where somebody like just gives you a job and says, this is you. And some people that works for them. But like I'd say in podcasting, you do need to be a bit of a self-starter for yourself to be successful and to be able to finish different things. Otherwise, like you are going to end up lagging because no one's going to be telling you what to do unless you're working for a network, and if you've gotten to that point of working for a network, my guess is you self-started at some point.
Yeah, so true. Well, I mean, you're mentioning that. All right. And I'm taking a look at some of the stuff that you've done throughout the years. Do you still have a passion working in music, or is it something that's kind of been put on the back burner for a while?
It has been in the back burner for a while. I was taking a songwriting workshop for a little while this fall, and it ended up being a weird time because it really re-upped my inspiration for wanting to put out these workshops for my show. For my business. And that was kind of where I ended up going with it instead of heading back into music. But like my one of my best friends, he's my producer, co-producer, and I still write and I play around, and it's still a part of my practice. It's something that I want to be doing more. But like again, it's like finding those times and finding those ways. Right now, I'd say my biggest way that I'm expressing it is working in sound design, because it's really fun to be able to find those music and like to build how the voices build within it. Because as a voice coach, which I do a lot of, and that's something I'm doing more of, and I'm just finishing this workshop with. It's not just about how you talk into a mic. It's not just about how you hold yourself. It's also about your cadence. It's about your tone. It's about your choices of the musicality of what you're saying, and how you can often use scores and music with it. And that's been really fun for me. So I'm enjoying, I always find a new way to explore it, but I do very much miss the days of when I had my music podcast and I got to go to festivals and run around and interview people and then, go play shows. Like I usually play between like 5 and 7 shows a year. Like, and that's a low number. Like it's fun. I love doing it. It's good. Yeah.
It's having that balance between the passion and then what we've got to do to pay the bills. Now you're an independent woman. I kind of see that you're a very independent woman. You take care of yourself, take care of your own. So it's good to see, you out there, you're trying to pay your bills, but you're trying to still balance some passion into it. What has been some of your biggest challenges in business over the last couple of years?
I think the big thing for me has been figuring out where my passion is in podcasting and figuring out my voice, because that's such a huge part of it, especially considering that for so long my podcast idea, like, and what I was doing in podcasting, like, well, I would give advice. I did workshops from, I think even before I launched my podcast, I was giving podcast workshops because at the time I'd already been doing media and PR and like I had been producing record, you know what I mean? Like, so I already knew the tools and because I have had that background in campaign, I knew how to do a media campaign. I knew how to put out these pieces. So it wasn't my focus, and it was an interesting place to come into, getting into tech and finding that I love tech and finding new loves in podcasting, but sort of figuring out where to balance it all. So like at the beginning, it was like, anyone, who can I edit for, and like being like, I'm an editor, guys, I'm a podcaster. Hey, did you know that I'm a it really felt like I was screaming in the void, and then it was just like focusing on just having the business side and then, finding things that worked for me so that every time I step into a project, I'm passionate when I open that window. So I'm excited when I open that project and I don't feel like I need to stop doing it after a few minutes. So that was, as I had done narrative before, it was finding out how to still be a part of projects or find projects where I was getting paid well. And because here's where the difference is, like, I didn't go to school for journalism. I don't have a degree in podcasting. I don't have an audio engineering degree. So yes, I think that if any of those had existed, I would have a lot more connections through there. I have all my connections because I have showed up to conferences. I used to go to events 5 nights a week. Like, I made it an effort to know everywhere else. I was on boards. Like, I showed up, I performed, I was on festivals. I showed up to festivals. I put on Kickstarters. I reached out and emailed people. So like my connections were really because I made an effort at being like a super networker, and then I really fought for myself to be in some of those positions. I was on radio because like I really wanted to be. I had a show and I had a good pitch, and I built a really good pitch with a fellow label and a festival, and I approached them with it and they said, we love it, right? But it wasn't something that someone said, hey, you should be on radio. Radio people did encourage me to have a podcast. So like that wasn't, that I should be doing this. So it wasn't like completely no, but like it was a like push and shove because like, I didn't go to journalism school. I don't have the credentials. I didn't find out about those emails right before and those connections. I think there's a huge leg up for people that do go those routes. There's no question that, people who've gone through conservatory in music or people who've gone to journalism to J school, like have a huge up in these like industry network jobs. There's no question for it. But like I do consider myself an independent, even though I've had like a pretty journalistic background, but it's been something I've, built myself with a lot of help because I've advocated for myself, speaking of that independent zone.
And it's always good. It seems like you try to find and learn things as you go. I'm huge on marketing, but yet I don't have a marketing degree. But like I have a trademarked thing in marketing, but those are things that I learned through, shall we say, the school of hard knocks, when I was 22, when I was 22 and 23 years old, all right, I was trying to start an automotive business, back then I had a wife and a kid and a house payment and all that stuff. Yeah. And I worked 2 jobs and was trying to start a business. And I think we do so much out of necessity in our life. We go, not like, oh my God, I've got to do this because I can't survive, but oh my God, I've got to do this because I don't want to spend the rest of my life working that job. sometimes necessity.
100%.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Have you gotten yourself in any positions where you go, you know what? All right, I'm going to work 80 hours a week to get out of this freaking 40-hour a week job?
I mean, I would say my experience at Guitar Center was so much of that. Like I needed a job. Like I was at a point, but I was at that point with radio. I mean, I was volunteering essentially and making no money, and I wasn't having fun with it, and I was like having like major anxiety, and it was just extremely stressful. And I'm just like, one day I'm like, I just don't want to do this. Like this can't be. And like I know I'm gonna have to work really, really hard at Guitar Center, but like I don't want to be at Guitar Center for a decade. I want to be at a Guitar Center for like a certain amount of time because I want to learn the things that I need to learn because I have gaps. You know what I mean? Like I didn't go to J school. I haven't interned in a studio. I don't know these things. Like it's frustrating, but I got to be like humble and just freaking admit it. You know, and I wouldn't admit it. Like I was still because you have to sort of just show up and learn as you go. But like, you know, I took in everything I could. At the time, they had a different structure for how you could even get in. I think it took me 6 to 9 months to finally get in pro audio, even though like I was hired for pro audio. And I'm sitting there in accessories, and I'm like, I can't even play the guitar. Like, here's how you get these strings. You know what I mean? Just trying to do whatever I could, taking any shift, working every single day of the week, you know, taking side jobs in venues, you know, just anything that I could do while, you know, trying to produce my podcast, you know, continuing to give workshops and doing these things and eventually getting into pro audio, which then was like a whole zone of, you know, like getting better at sales, being in a really, really fierce market. Like the department that I was in was off in the top in the Northwest, which is how I ended up being the top woman in the Northwest. Not like consistently or always, but like I did reach that zone, you know, at different periods. There just aren't that many women in audio. In audio retail, it's really, really cutthroat. It's very hard. It's extremely physically hard on your body. It's also just really tough, but it's very cutthroat. And you have to know everything too. So like you're getting it both from your colleagues, and you're getting it from the people you're with, and they're just hit a point where I'm like, I really need to get out of this. And like that was how I finally sat there because it didn't even occur to me. And I've talked about this in other interviews. It literally did not occur to me to be a podcast editor for other people. I didn't think of it. I'd been editing podcasts for like 5 years at this point. I've been working in audio for 7. And I just didn't even realize that was a thing. I had friends who were editors, but like it just, for whatever reason, like it was like, you know, a dog is a dog. But like, you don't think, oh, I could own a dog too, right? Like it just was a cognitive dissonance. That's the word. It was a total cognitive dissonance until that day that I was at Podcast Movement, and I was speaking at the beginning. Maybe it was I forget which year. I've been there for like every conference for like the last 5 years.
Were you at the very first Podcast Movement in Dallas, Texas?
No, I was in Chicago. The first one was in Chicago. I got a grant from the city of Portland to go, and I paid so little. I stayed with friends. I literally flew like the cheapest airline I could find, and then I went ahead and it covered both years. The city said it was okay. It was a regional grant, and they said that no problem. It's okay if you use it for the ticket for next year. I'm like, thank God, you know. Yeah. So
I went to the very first one because it was literally 6 miles from my house.
Nice. It
was really close to me right
Easy.
here in the Dallas area, and I actually bought a sponsorship spot at the time. You know, that's where I'd been doing a podcast, but I had no idea it was called a podcast. I was on like Blog Talk Radio, and I had a show, and I had like a million subscribers. I mean, I was doing very well at it. But they're like, yeah, you got to do this podcast thing. And I'm like, what's a podcast? I didn't know. Right. But they're like, you know, that thing you do on a radio show, that's called a podcast when you're doing it independently. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I already do that then. Okay.
Sweet. Let's do it.
100%. Yeah, we'll just keep doing that. Yeah. But
as the Tim Gillette show, or was that related to VidCon? You know what I mean? Because you've done a lot of different things over the years yourself.
Well, no, I started out with a blog, and then I was originally just a business coach and speaker. And then I narrowed my niche down to blogging and branding. And when I narrowed it down to blogging and branding, Blab came out. So then I was on Blab on live video. And in the realms that I was known, not in like the podcast world, but in the realms I was known in the marketing world, I was known as the Blab guy. And it's like that got me into video. And then when we created the conference, Blog and Video Con, my coach basically said, dude, nobody's doing something that's like a combination of blog and video, which is basically my main program is repurpose your content. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And he's like, you just need to call it blog and video con. Okay. And me, I'm like, okay, that sounds good. Let's do it. You know?
Yeah.
I'm not like over picky on things. I just go, okay, that sounds good. Let me try that and see where it goes. And that developed it.
Totally.
But that's it. I mean, it's why, now I interview people like you on the show to find out, like, you know what I mean? I till this day, don't do a lot of editing on my podcast, Jen.
That's fine.
No, I do a raw. I would love to get like an intro and outro to put together for this. I would love to do, take the ums and ahs out because, oh my God, I use them all the time.
The cool part is you could be doing that now. You could have it and you can literally insert it as a branded content on StreamYard and insert it. But like when you're good at an interview, when you're good at having a conversation with folks, you don't have to take that much out. Yeah. And especially as you get better at speaking, you don't need to edit out all these ums, right? Yeah. So of course you're going to have a guest and there's going to be various folks, but there is a point where not everybody needs to have that. If your audio is getting good or you're having this, even just a little cleanup is fine. But I would say not everybody needs to have like some editor. I would say it helps at a certain point to be able to outsource certain pieces of your life. Absolutely. But especially when you're learning new skills, because, I had my first blog at 13 and I've had a blog pretty much my entire life in various stages. And I think that's really cool that like you built that. And I think it's so important to put content out there and figure out what your content is. But like one of the things is if you can do that and you can do it well, like you don't necessarily have to edit it. I like playing around with different formats and different stylized pieces. And I sometimes.
Did you just freeze on me? No, I cannot have a podcast freeze on me.
Oh,
Jen, come back.
Okay, wasn't sure if it was me.
Jen, come back. Are you there? How about now?
Here.
She says something when I say something. We can put the solo layout. I did this before and it worked.
I can see you.
How about now?
Hello?
Hello.
I can see you.
Okay.
Can other people? That's the question.
I sure hope so. So you brought up an interesting thing that you did a podcast or a blog at 13. This young boy wrote this book when he was 12, 10, 11, 12, because he did a blog when he was 10 years old. He spoke on my first blog and video con stage. And, he's now, he's a college student going into film school, but he wrote this book at 10 and then decided he didn't want to keep it because it has this picture from when he was a little boy on there. So he says, I'm selling it. I'm like, at the time, I'm creating this thing called Blog and Video Con. I bought his last batch. I still have one case left. Awesome. I give it away to all the people who join my programs. And, you know what I mean? They get it as a free gift. And everybody's like, oh, I want just that book. And I'm like, go try and find it. I'm the last guy who has it. You can't buy it anywhere else except from me.
Yeah, when I was 13, the internet had just come out. So there was no writing a book about it. We were just going on GeoCities. It was called Jenny's Little Corner of the Web. And there was like a different page on different Broadway musicals. And there was a page about who my friends were. I mean, it was like not complicated.
I don't remember specifically. I was doing something on AOL when I first got on the internet in 96.
Yeah.
I did something with articles and my 50th birthday, my mom, because I wrote one thing that was really meaningful. My mom printed it out and she brought the printing of it to my 50th birthday. She remembered it. I'm like, this was like back when I was an automotive guy. I wasn't even on the internet. I just wrote something that was inspiring and my mom saved it all these years and she gave it to me on my 50th birthday. It's like, wow, so cool. I wrote that.
Yeah, Dad used to, Dad was the tech person. He was the computer person in our entire family. So even for the entire district, he's the one who taught everybody how to use computers back in Fort Dodge, Iowa. And then he was like that. He was always the first one to have the tech. But he was also like the one where at Christmas, he would get everyone to send him their the thing they wrote, and then he would put them into a book that he'd send out at Christmas. I mean, you know what I mean? Like when you think about the idea of compilation and playing with stuff, all that. I love mixed media. I love playing with media. I think it's really fun and interesting because it is all about us telling our stories. However, that is like here we're telling our story about how we're existing and what this is, and how we got to where we are, right? And that's a perfectly awesome way to do it. Yeah, it's great.
So
it's amazing that we have all these tools.
So, I mean, so you do editing. Is editing your main business with what you do, or is it just like part of the business?
I would say it's part. So really, I'm a podcast producer, coach, and I'm a podcast producer and coach and editor, so there's obviously different roles, but I would say like the bulk of my clients are split into about 3 different zones, and there's a couple of different tiers of what my clients usually are. So like the first batch of clients is just like straight editing, and the current editing people I have that are really, really consistent were actually people I did their launches for. So I edit the shows, I help them launch. So I was a launch coach for them, and then I became their editor. And then the second group of people are folks that I do editing and production, and it's like content based, somewhat narrative based, storytelling based, and I work with them one-on-one, either on a single episode, on an ongoing episode, on when they release episodes that are more complicated. So like right now I have multiple clients in that area. And then the last zone is like the coaching teaching. So I have in the coaching teaching area, and this is one of they're all really my favorites in their own way. I would say like the editing is great. It definitely pays a lot of the bills. The second zone is pretty decent pay. I love the coaching side because it ends up being like a really nice extra padding for everything. I love the teaching. I have a master's in education, and like I learned so much, and that's sort of where I can prioritize a lot of stuff. But the big thing about that one, I have people who like just want to have a launch, right? So one of my shows launched today. I'm so excited for them. Another one, and that's where I'd fit that. And then the second one is I have multiple clients where they'll buy like 4. They'll be like, I want 4 sessions.
We did not lose you again.
2 in a row, and then I won't for like 3 months. You hear me? Okay. Okay, good. Yeah. And so for that group, I might see them every once in a while, but they're my coaching clients. So we're like working on a thing, and that either is in tech, it is in vocal coaching, or it's in contact not contact, content coaching. And then also there's been more people coming to me for like business development who are looking to get into the podcast industry, where I'm kind of teaching a piece of all of those. And then now I've just added in like where I'm doing tech videos on YouTube. And there'll probably be some content, but that's very focused on tech. And then there is like my workshops, which a lot of that is going to be content based, but also a lot of the vocal coaching. And, it all ends up tying together, and some of them get kind of niched, but I'm really excited to finally have stuff out there because people ask me questions all the time. And one of the issues that I always had was like, I can't just have all like one-on-one coachings. I need to have something where I'm like sending them to that, or now that I'm like able to use that as a product and to be able to sell that, because like that information is, based off of my several years and everything that I've had, my experience and, my whole life of pieces. And not everybody has like the specific amount. And it really has taken time for me to get past the imposter syndrome, like of saying, yeah, oh, okay, I can be a podcast coach too, which is so silly. Like I just see so many people, I'm like, oh, we don't need another voice. But then I had to remember that's because I was showing up to podcast conferences. I was in the podcast editors groups. You know what I mean? Like I was talking to the people that knew it. And that's really so it's been really fun for me to kind of be able to explore those different passions in like very specific ways. And that's going to be, my new podcast is going to be one that like kind of spans all of that. And I'm really stoked to be able to finally have a new podcast that's not music based, that, talks about creating content and in all of those aspects with just some like really rad people that I know in the world. So I'm happy to finally be back in this like blogging, content creating world, and to just be having conversations constantly. It's a hard thing sometimes when friends don't realize how many people I talk to in a week. I'm like, I don't think you understand how many video calls I get. I don't think you understand, because of the fact that, I'm managing so many different relationships in any given week, and it's fun. Yeah, including ones where I'm, like my online friends like you, who I've talked with now. Yeah. So
it has been so cool having you on the show today, and just basically having a conversation. We really didn't. I can't say that this has been a marketing or sales conversation. This has just been two of us finally talking and getting to know each other.
I know, seriously. I prefer those. I actually really like those. I think they're really great because you're not drilling someone. I think there's room for all of it, but I really enjoy these. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've enjoyed doing these kind of podcasts for a long time, Jen, because of the fact that I got sick of when I got started. The majority of people in our industry of coaching and speaking, you basically would go on a show and you would hand them the 10 questions that they want you to ask. So if I go on your show, I say, Jen, you ask me these 10 questions. The problem with that is that I was asked those same 10 questions on the past 10 podcasts I've been on.
Right.
So it's not like 100%. It wasn't some new content. And I'm like, I want a podcast where I can just get to know people, but I do want to make it so it's informative and have a purpose. So like some of the new people coming into ours were able to come on, and in some cases, this is their first interview. You know what I mean? I was the first interviewing someone for the very first time. And that is, to me, I love it because it's not like, hey, they're all worried. Well, what should I do? You don't have to worry about it. Show up. I'll walk you through it. It's okay.
That's so cool. I was the first guest recently on a show. Actually, this week it just came out. It's called the All About Audio podcast. And I was the first guest. And it was the same thing. He's interviewed people before. But for this show, it was really exciting to be in that zone. Because he's like, I don't have this completely figured out. And I'm like, that's okay. Because it's just going to change. And that's some of the fun of it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I love it. It was so cool. It was a cool honor.
So, Jeni, it's been great having you on the show. And I want to make sure people get a website and a place they can go connect to you, find out about your business, your podcast, and stuff like that. What is the website you can tell everybody on here that we can tell to find you?
Yeah, it's www.grittybirds.com. So that front page has all of the things if you were to hire me. But if you go to the blog is going to have the articles that I've done, the videos that I posted, and then YouTube is just youtube.com/grittybirds. So it makes it really easy between the two. And there's just gonna be a lot of cool content coming out just consistently in the next year. That's been something I've had to focus on. And right now I've really got a vision and a plan. The good thing about having crazy stuff go on and a year be crazy is do what it is you get a lot of time to think about how you're going to strategically do it. It's fine. So cool. We're excited.
Cool. Well, as I said, I've enjoyed having you on the show. I like to end my podcast, though, with a little game I call This or That.
I'm ready. I'm in for it.
Most of my guests now know that I'm doing this. I've started to put this in my prep video to let them know. But these are just 9 questions, 2 choices. You pick one. I'm sure some of these are going to bring up a conversation, but maybe not. We don't know. Yeah. My first one I always ask everybody is Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars.
Star Wars. You're not old enough to see the 1977 original Star Wars when it came out.
No, I was not old enough. No, but I was we were waiting in line to go see the original one. This was the one movie we watched every single year. So I've always been hardcore Star Wars. I was much, much older when Star Trek was introduced to me. But yeah, for me and my family, we were definitely Star Wars folks.
Cool.
And I've had my obsession with Star Wars. It's not just I like one. I really like Star Wars. Even if I know that it's crap for that current, there's a lot of conversations people in the Star Wars world can have. I know that, but
yeah,
we'll get there someday.
Yeah. So my next question would be, I'd like to move on to vacation spots. Are you a person who wants to go on vacation at the beach or the mountains?
I've done both. I would say I've done more in the mountains, although I've come to really enjoy the beach because Oregon's beaches are just everything. Mm-hmm. And I'm a huge lover of water. But growing up, we used to go to the Black Hills in Colorado just about every other year, depending on the one. So I would say one of my favorite things about being in Oregon is I can see the mountain and I can go to the beach, and I can go to the beach in the mountains for the river summers, which is the best. So there's a lot of mountain in me. Yeah. A lot of
So
river.
yeah, in the early days of Blab, I actually had there was another blogger guy I knew from Oregon, and he used to talk about he actually could have snow at his house and still be you could look out the window and still see the ocean. And he said that was so cool.
Totally.
In Oregon, yeah.
It's so gorgeous. When I was growing up, that was one of the things I wanted, and I have it. And same what I had in Seattle. I love it.
Yeah. So my next thing here I'm going to ask is, if you're riding in the car, Jenny, do you play a podcast or do you play music?
I play music.
Music. What kind of music do you really listen to? I got to know.
A lot of hip hop.
Okay.
A lot of pop, a lot of and then like indie stuff, but like a lot of pop, and then definitely kind of like chill indie stuff. It's like I listen to almost everything, but that's like my big zone of.
I'm a hair band guy. You couldn't tell that. But
yeah. I've seen your picture, like your profile picture for I think your YouTube channel. You've got it like fully on. Yeah. That stuff's fun though. I love that. That's super pop.
Yeah, I still have not gotten the new professional look with this headshot with this short haircut, but I'm working on it.
Someday.
So, yeah. So you're a girl, all right? Sometimes girls like to dress up, and when they go out, do you like to wear heels or boots?
I've had too many injuries, so I'm a boots person because I don't want to sprain my ankle again.
I just did something to mine, like my foot, and not my ankle, but like the top right side of my right foot.
I've done that too. Yeah.
And like when I get up in the morning, it is still a lot of pain because it's been sitting all night. But during the day, I've got it now to where I'm standing and I'm moving it around and stuff. But oh my gosh, as the older I get, like it takes forever to heal.
I had that with my left foot last month, and it's just like it sucks. Yeah. It was funny because I got to the airport to go to Iowa, and then I was walking in there, and all of a sudden it started. I'm like, what the heck? You know what I mean? You're like, now is the moment that you decided to have some weird thing. Bodies, we get older, strange stuff happens. But my feet are everything. So I used to have heels, and if I do, it's very short. But no more. Yeah, I always used to perform in heels. I had tons
of cowboy boots. I wear very few of them now. I'm actually wearing the work boots this time of year because they tightly wrap that ankle right now. So
I do wear kitten heels, like in this. Yeah, I do wear kitten heels, like that much. Yeah.
Okay, so how about we move into some food products? Next one, taco or hamburger?
I don't eat hamburger, so I would say chicken taco, veggie taco.
So you got
hey, wait a minute. I don't eat a hamburger, so taco.
Yeah. But I mean, tacos is like some of the coolest tacos. There's combinations of tacos like you wouldn't believe. So yeah.
In my head, I was thinking of the meat in the taco. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, 100% taco.
So how about this one here? Would you rather dress up or wear yoga pants? Or work out?
I love dressing up. I do. I love dressing up, but I also like being in like super cozies, but it usually looks a little nicer. Yeah. But I do like looking nice. I like clothes. I love clothes.
How about if we go out for a drink together? Are you going to have a bottle of beer or a glass of wine?
Always wine. I'll have a glass of beer a week. Beer doesn't sit with me anymore. I do like a good IPA. Had one 2 days ago, but I've always been a wine bar girl. Always, like, and since I was old enough, my first when I was in Iowa, actually, the first club that I sang at, it was a jazz club, and it was a wine jazz club, and ever since I've just been going to wine bars. I love wine bars. Yeah.
Yeah, we're winery people. We like going visit wineries. I love wineries. And usually when we come home from wineries, we ship like 3 cases of wine home. Is our problem. Yeah,
we have so many good wineries here. And I'm in a wine club with some other podcasters. Actually, my friend Damona Hoffman from the I Make a Living podcast. We totally have a wine club. That we do. It's very fun.
Yeah, that's a podcast that I was thinking about doing, was the Wine Tasters podcast, where basically you get 4 people on and you all pick a wine. Yeah, I mean, you have 4 different wines. Everybody tastes the wine, but you do it on camera.
We don't live it, but they have the wine club membership. I meant to do it, and then I missed out on the last shipment. So I show up with one kind of like it, and then we do that exact same thing. It's a lot more relaxed It's like her parents, a couple other friends in California. But it's pretty rad. It's great. I love it. It's one of my favorite things.
Cool. Now, my next one are my two controversial questions. This next one here is the toilet paper. Does it go over on the roll or under?
Over.
Over? Okay. How about my last one that I love to ask? Boxers or briefs?
Boxer briefs.
Boxer briefs.
I'm serious.
Yeah.
Get together. Get comfortable.
So yeah, I got to tell you though, some of the answers to that question are interesting. The toilet paper one, I had a girl in New Hampshire that basically said, you know what I mean, she'll break up with a guy if he doesn't put the toilet paper right. Then I've had the boxer briefs one. One girl came on and said, listen, by the time I get his clothes down that far, I hope he has nothing on. But anyway, I was like, whoa.
That one makes me a little shy because I don't know. I'm known with my friends as like kind of like never giving them any details. And they're like, come on. And I'm like, no. And they're like, why won't you try? And I'm like, I'm perfectly open and happy with my sexuality, but I'm not going to tell you about art like that piece of my life. That's like none of your business. Yeah.
So
that's fun.
Well, Jenny, I want you one more time. And hey, Larry stopped in, so we got to say hi to Larry. So
Larry.
Yeah, I love Larry.
Yeah.
So
Larry and his new show, rocking it.
Yeah, Larry's got a new awesome show, and been doing some awesome stuff with Larry. Hopefully he gets my videos broken up this week for my last event last weekend. But anyway, he's a great guy. He's been doing that for us. So your website one more time. Make sure the people on the audio can hear it and understand it.
Yes, www.grittybirds.com. So GRITTY birds.com. And then if you head over to the blog page, there's a whole bunch of tabs, but that one will give you all the articles and you can find the YouTube really easily from there.
Cool. Well, I do thank you, Jenny, for coming on our show today, giving us a little bit into your world. It has been nice.
Yeah, it's been very nice to get to know you a little bit more. More again later. More.
Yeah, we'll have to do this again.
Yeah, I have to have you on so I can ask you about all this video stuff. VideoCon and everything. Because we've never had that conversation.
Yeah. So, I'm open for it. All you got to do is tell me the process. I've got a process down. By the way, does my process work? I'm just curious.
Your process is great. I need to figure out how you're doing those reminders because that was fantastic. Because I said yes, and then I'll do this. I'll just forget that someone said that I said that I'd be in their show, and I'm not trying to be a dick about it. But like I'll just space that we had a conversation, and they'll be like, "I never heard back," and you're like, "Oh my god!" So I love that it was like I'm gonna remind. This thing is automated, and it's gonna remind you every few months, and I'm like, done, simple. Like that works for me. Yeah, because then I just went on and I found a time and we're here right now. Like I didn't expect it to be like immediate and that easy. So I was like, done, easy.
Again, everything is mine is simple, easy marketing. That's the trademark. So why not make it simple and easy for my customers to do it? That's the whole idea. But anyway. And if you want to be a guest on the show, go to timgillette.com/podcast interview. You can sign up and we'll see if you'd be a great guest. We'd love to have you. Yeah. Jenny, thank you, dear, so much.
Yes, thank you, Tim. Thank you, everybody.
Yep. To you, the listeners, I want to thank you for coming by. Get to know Jenny. Go to grittybirds.com. Check out her blog. Check out her YouTube channel. Check out her podcasts. By all means, just check the girl out. She's awesome. Can't you tell? All right. I thank you guys for watching and listening in. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast. Go to timgilletteshow.com to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or look for Tim Gillette Show on where you listen to podcasts and get yours. I'm Tim Gillette. We'll be back with another guest real soon. I'll talk to you later.